morning, Chair. We're now live.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue Pension Scheme Board, Thursday, the 11th of September. Do we have any apologies, Tom?
None received.
And we're still awaiting the arrival of Councillor McGonigal, is that correct?
No, Councillor McGonigal is attending via Teams today.
Thank you. Okay, so everybody has a copy of the agenda. Happy that no more apologies or introductions to do. Are there any declarations of interest that anybody would like to bring to our attention? No? Thank you. Just before we move on, I'd like to take a moment to thank Elizabeth Hipworth. Liz has been a long-standing advisor to this board, and her excellent advice and guidance over the years has been greatly appreciated. She's now taken her own well-earned retirement, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to record our thanks and best wishes for her future. Thank you. Okay, next to the minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody should have had sight of these minutes and the chance to review them. Are there any comments or amendments? Tony.
It's only a pedantic point, but it's my title's HR advisor. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. HR advisor to the board. It could or could not be. I suppose it's just. It was just. I guess if my title seems to be correct at the beginning, but it was just whether or not that was correct. But if I'm here in the role of HR advisor to the board, that's fine. So I've probably answered my own question after reading it now, after reading it again. But so it can stay given the capacity of advisor to the board. I misread it as just it said HR advisor, but it's fine. Ignore me. Ignore me.
Thanks, Tony. It's good to have that clarification. So before we agree these as an accurate record, if we could just review some of the actions. So on page 2 of the minutes, which is page 4 of the pack, we have 4 actions there to be carried out by LCC. Is it possible to confirm that all these 4 actions have been addressed?
Yes, Chair, I can confirm that. So the first action was actually completed and was in progress at the time of the last board meeting. We are using the correct calculator from the for the GAD calculator. Yes, in terms of the dashboard connection codes, and yes, in terms of the return on the data. So it's all actioned. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we move to page 3 of the minutes, which is page 5 of the pack, a further action there for an update on the TPR Public Service Governance and Administration Survey.
Yes, that's correct.
Sorry, Tony, is an update available?
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing there, so apologies. So page 3 of the minutes, which is page 5. Yeah.
Towards the bottom of the page.
It's not on my list of actions that I've got. So I think in respect of that, I'm going to have to defer that one, because it is meant to be it's meant to be presented today in terms of the actual survey. But I haven't been furnished with any of the necessary information, I don't think. So I'm going to have to apologise and provide that after the meeting. Or if you bear with me, I can come back to that and speak to a colleague whilst the meeting progresses in order to respond to that, if that's okay. So apologies for that, I didn't spot that. Okay, thank you.
Actually, I'm not particularly concerned. Happy to move on. I think it's not critical. So, yeah, I think an update will come in due course, and for now we can move on. So, if everybody's happy that the minutes are an accurate record, could I have somebody to propose that we accept them, please? A voting member. And a seconder. And a vote. Okay, can we note that all agreed that we've accepted the minutes as an accurate record of the previous meeting? So next item on the agenda is performance data from West Yorkshire Pension Fund. And I think Helen's going to give us an update.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you've got the client reports. So the first, kind of my first question is, does anybody have anything they want to raise out of that client report?
Yeah, there are a couple of points I think are worth discussing.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So the theme is around pensions estimates being significantly delayed, 8 to 10 weeks to process, leading to the need to prioritise the more urgent cases. Is it possible to give us a better understanding of what leads to these delays, whether anything is being done to address those delays and what we can expect in the future?
It's purely and simply the position that we find ourselves in with age discrimination remedy and the amount of work that is involved in that and the resources needed for that, which has just resulted in not being able to process visas in the, say, you know, the number of days that we would normally expect to, and also the change in the information supplied within the ABS RSS, where now it only projects to 60, has caused an increase in the number of estimate requests that we get in. But once we get through age discrimination remedy and we can draw a line under it, then yes, business as usual should all start to improve, and we should start to be providing estimates in a much more timely manner.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Thanks for the useful update. So, just in summarise for me. So practically, we're looking at it's a resourcing to demand issue due to the increase of the other demands that's coming on to West Yorkshire. You mentioned that once the other areas of backlog are being resolved, then it's business as usual. Have you got a timeline for when that would be? So I suppose we can then at least have an opportunity to have a communication through to staff of when an expected time frame we'll be looking at business as usual.
I think probably the work with regard to completing age discrimination remedy and all the kind of bits and pieces, I would say probably the end of the financial year. We're looking at kind of to 31st of March 26. I think we'll still be doing different bits. I mean, hopefully not quite that long, but I would say that, but obviously then we've got to get ourselves back into a normal position. So I would hope that you'll start to see improvements from April 26.
Thanks, Helen. And I'm sure it's being looked at, but it's probably worth for the benefit of the board. Clearly, within that time period where there's an increase of demand, have you explored bringing in temporary resources to try and meet that additional demand?
We have about, I think we've got 5 casual staff, and so yeah, recruitment is an ongoing thing. I think it was in one of the earlier bulletins that there was a bit of a client reports. There's a bit of a breakdown on what we've done, but I think we've in potentially, I can't remember whether it was given over an 18-month period or 2.5 years, but we've done 15 recruitment exercises to try and plug the gaps for us and help us. but they just haven't turned out to be as successful as we'd want. We do have a member services manager, which is I don't know if people are aware, but Laura Taylorson, who runs the fire team. It's at her level, and he's starting at the end of October. Unfortunately, he's had to give 3 months' notice, but it has a lot of fire knowledge, has worked within fire pensions for some time. So hopefully that is going to give us some results as well in terms of getting back on top of the normal work, because obviously there'll be 2 at that management level rather than just 1. And on a slight aside, still kind of resource and recruitment, but not that we are. Once he starts, then we will have a completely separate Matthews project team, and that will be headed by Laura. It will have a team manager in, and we've already one of our current team managers within the administration section has asked if they can move across and work in the Matthews team. So we've got that sorted, and then we do have some staff working on Matthews, so they will be moved into that project team along with a couple of additional casuals. And we're hopeful then that we will be able to start moving the Matthews cases on much faster than we're currently doing. So yeah, recruitment and the setup and everything, we're constantly monitoring it. We're constantly trying to improve it and do things, but unfortunately, things haven't been as successful as would have hoped over the last couple of years in that regard.
No, thank you, Helen. So that's really useful, and I'm just linking through in regards to some communications through to our staff, and I think there's a position for us to be able to support that message about this dedicated Matthews team as and when that gets pulled together. So for me, I think that would be welcome to know when that's up and running, because we are getting quite a lot of communications from on-call colleagues retiring in service, specifically about Matthews. So I think that would be a welcome update in regards to that. Thank you. And then I suppose my final thing, and then I'll stop hogging the mic. I'm not wanting to know details of other services, because I recognise that West Yorkshire Pension Fund look after many services. The picture that we've got in regards to the pension estimate delayed, I'm just looking for probably either some assurance or benchmarking. Is that replicated across the country on services that you are representing?
Oh yeah, there's no we don't do kind of specific FRAs above others. It is purely, it's a matter of looking at the dates now as to when the expected retirement date is, and trying to get them and done in date order, so that they get it. Everybody's getting them. I know late, but at least in the order of when the retirement date is. And yeah, so it's all a date order thing. It doesn't matter who somebody works for.
Thank you for that, Helen. Thank you.
Returning to the report, I'd like to bring attention to the member web registrations. Really positive movement there between July and August, and I think we can probably link that to the release of the recent annual benefit remedy statements, but it's a really encouraging trend. On page 19 of the pack, towards the bottom of the page there's an action for FRAs to be confirm that they're implementing the Matthews remedy before McLeod remedy, because it seems like there could be an error generated if that isn't the case. So if we could record an error, an action for the LCC to confirm that they are implementing Matthews remedy before McLeod remedy. I'm sure it's the case, but it'd be nice to record that's happening. Yeah, brilliant. So if, actually we can record that that's taking place correctly. There's a further action noted there that scheme managers must populate and share the new non-basic rate template. I don't fully understand this. Is this something we're aware of? So this is on page 20 of the pack within the West Yorkshire Performance Report. Helen, is it possible to just clarify what's meant by this action?
So it's to do with Matthews. So it's not something that we're involved in, but the way that I'm reading it is GAD have sent a template, and when FRAs are referring a case to GAD for them to assist with the calculations, then they're wanting this template populated and sent with the case.
Okay, thanks for that, Helen. So if we could just record an action to confirm that we're in a good situation with that by at the next meeting, please. And just a final thing is on page 21 of the pack, there's a link to an update on the breach and disclosure time limit. So I don't have that linked document available. Is it possible we could have a verbal update, Helen, please?
So what happened was, when we got to the 31st of March 25, which was the legislative deadline for production of RSS, we reported that breach to TPR, and within the report, we said that we were aiming to get the statements out by the 30th of June 25. And although, and so we've provided TPR with an update of where we ended up at the 30th of June. So it's not we're not reporting an additional breach or anything, but we're telling TPR what position, where we were for each FRA. So there will have been an update report for Lincolnshire about how many statements we'd actually produced by the 30th of June, and then kind of an explanation that the ones that hadn't gone were mainly the ones that were mentioned in section 2910B of the Act, so where you could extend the time frame, so divorce, scheme pays, transfers in, missing data, and that kind of thing. So we've explained to TPR that they're pretty much the ones that didn't go by the 30th of June. So we've just provided, as I say, that updated position.
Okay, thanks for that, Helen. It's good to have that update. Mark.
Sorry, Helen. Thanks for the explanation on that. In regards to that group of people that haven't had the statement for this year, and I think there is a similar group of people that didn't have them for the previous year, what level of assurance are they going to be having that they're going to be, when the statements will be coming through for them? Recognising the issues that have already been stated, but I think again my mind's back into that communicating out to our staff is giving them some understanding or assurance when they will expect statements to be available for them.
I mean, some of it is outside our control, and so we've got no influence on that time frame. That's particularly some transferring cases. Again, some of the transfers where they might have come from another FRA. If we haven't managed to get the data from that previous administrator, and yourselves haven't managed to get the GAD contribution adjustment data from them, then obviously we can't produce. So there's some things within that are outside our control. And similarly with scheme pays, we have sent statements for some people with scheme pays where they've had the remedy pension savings statement, they've gone through the HMRC calculator, we've had the details, we've given them the revised information, and their remedy journey, for want of a better phrase, for scheme pays has been completed. So they've gone. But what we've got is we've got some people that are still kind of in progress. Either we haven't heard back from them at all, having sent them the remedy pension savings statement, or we kind of working through that we've got the data and they're getting a quote and we're doing the actual, so we're just kind of finalising those. So again, if that member who got sent the remedy pension savings statement hasn't taken action on it and used the calculator, then they're not going to get a statement until that's all finalised. So there's some that we were going to be working on, and hopefully will be out in the next 3 to 4 weeks. But then there's others that I don't know when they're going to be out.
Yeah,
not helpful, and it's not the greatest for you to do a communication on, but that's just the reality that we're working with.
Yeah, and I recognise that, Helen, and it's a useful explanation. I think there's something about us. How can we articulate and help people to understand if there's things that they need to do to support the process to get statements, and just understand those blockers, and also.
I mean, I'd be surprised if Lincolnshire have got any that scheme pays that haven't processed it. Haven't gone through the process, but let me just have a look. Okay. I've got a report that tells me. Okay. I might have a report that tells me, but you've got to go in the right place, haven't you, to find it? Right, just one moment. Oh, actually, I think both of them. I think you've got 2 scheme pays cases, and I don't think either of them were in a position to produce a statement. So I can send the data through. I can send the information about those 2 through to the pensions team if you want, so that you can do a bespoke communication.
Yeah, that would be useful, because I'm always keen that if we can do everything we can to try and unblock any blockers, and then we actually know where any other issues are, and then we can at least be a little bit more open and transparent on expectations for people on that.
In that case, I will say that there are a number of cases where the member probably got a statement for 24 and has not yet got a statement for 25, because the block we call them pay blocks. So basically, our system does a check on member records, and where cases are outside set tolerances, it blocks the production of the statement, and then we query the pay and get confirmation of what's correct and what isn't, and then following that, the statements get unblocked and sent. I've sent that to Lincolnshire. I haven't had a response, and I sent a reminder yesterday. So there's actually a batch that are blocked at your end.
Okay, then on that point, could we record an action for LCC to confirm that the email sent yesterday has been acted on?
It's being worked on today, I can confirm.
Okay, so the verbal update is being worked on today, but we'll review an action to review that at the next meeting. There are 5, apparently. Thanks for that, Helen. Just a bit further into the report then, on page 27 of the pack, there's an action which needed to be carried out by the 15th of August. Obviously we've passed, but it was to provide the number of contingent decision claims. Is it possible to say whether that's been carried out? Okay, so we can confirm that's been carried out. And then a positive one, there's action on the subsequent page for scheme managers, local pension board members, administrators, etc., to attend the firefighters AGM, which takes place next week. And I can confirm that Tracy, you will be attending that to represent us, so that's really positive. Okay, is there any other queries or questions around the report? No, right then, at Helen's request, I'm going to ask that we move forward in the agenda to item 9, which is an update from the Scheme Advisory Board. Helen, are you able to give us this update, please?
I am, and I've had, oh yeah, right. So the last Scheme Advisory Board meeting was on the 18th of June. So at that meeting, GAD gave an update on where they were with the kind of the stuff for Matthews, and what they were doing, and the work that they were undertaking. The Home Office gave an update on what they were doing. First of all, kind of confirming that they were transferring from Home Office to HMHCLG, and as a result of that, because of they would be having to appoint like new legal advisors and this kind of thing, so that would push back certain things that they were working on. So there'd be potential delays in some of their work coming out to us. And the kind of big two within that were the response to the Matthews consultation and the response to the employee contributions consultation. I have since been told that the employee contribution consultation, they are expecting to get the response out in the autumn. Your guess is as good as mine as to when that actually means. But they have said that they expect the legislation to be laid by the end of the year, and following on their promise that scheme managers would have 12 weeks to implement, they'd be looking for implementation from the 1st of April 26. There wasn't. Oh, GAD also updated on valuation and what was going on with the kind of sign off for 2020 and the work going into 2024's valuation. And there wasn't a lot else. LGA updated on what they were working on, touching on the need for change data collection questionnaire that they sent to FRAs about, I think, the work that they do and how they assist FRAs, and also the move and the discussion of the pros and cons of having a single administrator and this, and also views on a single scheme manager, so that each FRA doesn't have to take on the responsibilities and the decision making of a scheme manager. And really that was it. They covered the budget, and then at all the meetings they have the kind of administrators. So the biggest administrators, which is obviously us, West Yorkshire, London Pension, Local Pension Partnerships and XPS, they have them come in and give an update on where they are with kind of all the pressing projects of McLeod and Sargent and Matthews and Dashboard. And then following that, they have the two main software suppliers, Civica and Haywoods, come in and give an update from their perspective on where they are with providing, everything that's needed. So that's pretty much what happened at the last meeting. And as I say, the next meeting is at 11. So I'll update you on that one at your next board.
Thanks, Helen. It's quite interesting to hear about the contribution rate consultation, and it was really interesting to see how slow the process is to respond to the changes in pay, to the extent that nobody is now within the lowest contribution rate, and the effect that has on the scheme. So it'll be good to see some kind of action come of it. And it's good to have the heads up as well for the admin changes that we needed, presumably within our payroll team. So we've got an awareness that to expect that for towards the end of financial year.
Yeah, and I was just told yesterday, obviously not from the Scheme Advisory Board, but yesterday that Home Office and or LGA are reaching out to fire authorities to find out about their payroll providers and to get some feedback from the payroll providers about the actual work involved in making these changes and the timeframes and that kind of thing. So hopefully that will be noted when and they've taken that into account when we get, you know, the consultation response comes out and then the actual legislation is laid for implementation. But they've said that, you know, they've taken on board the comments about, you know, timeframes and it's not quite as simple as just changing a couple of rates. So hopefully that will be helpful for yourselves as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Helen. So a good information there about the LGA reaching out about payroll providers, and something to keep an eye open for, and maybe even a conversation that you might be able to pick up on at the AGM next week. So brilliant. Thanks then. So if we return to the agenda as it's written. Helen, if you're able to stick around for a short while through Tony's reports, just in case any questions arise, but if you need to go, that's fine as well. So
yeah, that's fine, yeah.
To item 5 on the agenda, then current issues, to receive an update from Tony.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll start with a number of updates. First one is the easier one to update on, which is pensions auto-enrolment. So obviously there's a triennial automatic non-pension scheme members, and that was done in May 25. And we've done that, and there's been an increase of 21 members, 17 whole time, 4 retained as a result of that. So additional members into the pension scheme. The next one was just around pension dashboards. So West Yorkshire Pension Fund will be connected to Money Helper Pension Dashboard, and this is going to be the government service that is going to be managed by the MPS, and basically West Yorkshire's Pension Fund has been given permission to act as the dashboard provider for 5 pensions in addition to the LGPS. I'm assuming this will sort of enable connection and whatever for people to actually look at their pensions and such like. I don't know if Helen's got any further updates that she wanted to add on that, or whether Helen?
I don't know very much about pension dashboards, but you should be getting monthly communications from West Yorkshire Pension Fund, which I think that they're called Nudger Communicate, I don't know. So you should be getting those about, and that should update you on kind of where we are and what we're doing, and highlighting things that you as the scheme manager FRA might need to do. And also I think TPR are sending communications out to employers as well. So you should be getting quite a bit of information coming through, highlighting kind of where everything is and the progress and any actions you might need to do. And then just on top of that, just the main thing to kind of, although connection is the 31st of October and we're on course for that, that's not when it becomes available to members. There's additional work, so it goes live, but then there's additional work, I think, in terms of kind of legal, GDPR, connectivity, and I think they're bringing in kind of testers, so then they're using that feedback to make any changes or if they're finding issues with certain providers, then they'll be working on those. And then at some stage after that, we'll be provided with a date that it then needs to go live to users. So the 31st of October, you won't all be able to sign on and see your pension benefits that are held. That's just a live connection for the employer or for us. So that's just something else to just be aware of.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Okay, so on to some of the bigger current issues. So obviously we have a number of ongoing issues and challenges. First one, really, internal dispute resolution procedure. So folks will be aware that that the latest guidance was updated in March, and this has been reviewed and incorporated into the LFR policy. So since the last pension board, we've received 56 IDPRs, and 54 of those relate to delays in receiving their annual benefit statement or their remedial statement, and 53 of those were submitted as a collective, all of which will require individual responses. One relates to a historic processing of the pension service, and one relates to delays in processing of a retirement for an individual with scope of Matthews and Sargent, who has transferred between FRAs, and so that's been a number of the challenges. The 6 IDRPs noted at the last board have all been responded to. In terms of breaches, since the last pension board, there have been no further breaches. Just picking up on the sort of annual benefit statement and the remedial service statement. So I think the 23-24 statements were issued by 30th of June to members. I think there's a few small caveats related to that. And then there were active members with the follow that have got a number of outstanding in terms of receiving their statements. And there's a number of different reasons why that would be the case. I think we just talked about this earlier, but still the statutory requirement to produce remaining statements for 24 and now 25. Works transferring to the production of the 25 statements as of mid-August, and plans are in place to return to production of deferred annual benefit statements for 24, followed by deferred statements for 25. My understanding is that, and I think it picks up on what Helen was saying before, which is it's not expected that pensioners' cases will be able to receive theirs until at least December. Where there are issues with data held on records, obviously ourselves and West Yorkshire are working closely together. So obviously position is going to be continued to be monitored in case of further breaches to the pensions regulator. In terms of ABS RSS 2025 production update, in order to produce those updates for those out of scope for 25 for active members, there was the deadline of the 31st of August. Now, West Yorkshire have reconfigured their admin systems and work began on 2025 production in 16th of August, with production and distribution by the 26th of August. So they're in train. In terms of Sergeant McLeod age discrimination remedy, so 473 individuals are in scope of Sergeant, and we've had 186 who are also in scope of the Matthews second options exercise. At retirement, individuals obviously now get 2 sets of figures, and again, since the introduction of the legislation, we've had 19 retirements have been completed, 11 of those have chosen legacy schemes, and 4 have chosen reform scheme benefits, and 4 members decided not to take their benefits. And we've got another 15 retirements ongoing with respect to that. Again, Matthew's second options exercise. So again, continuing progress, but also ongoing challenges. So 718 individuals are in scope of the exercise. 392 have indicated they wish to receive costs of the buyback, and 26 individuals have indicated they do not wish to receive costs of buyback. We're still waiting responses from 300 individuals, and that's the usual despite numerous reminders, etc., etc. 125 individuals have received their figures to date, with 97 having returned paperwork. These are currently being worked through and packs sent to West Yorkshire as they are completed. West Yorkshire now working on new pension members and those with a pension currently in payment, and we are currently waiting. We are aware that there are significant delays in processing payments to members currently, but picking up on what Helen was just saying there, obviously there are progression in terms of expanding the team and setting up a special team to manage that. In terms of any further update on that, so the consultation on a number of amendments to the rules governing this exercise closed in February this year, but we're still waiting feedback for special deferred members and deceased members. And obviously, we're still working to a deadline of the 31st of March 26, but I guess the longer there are delays in terms of advice, that is that date looks more and more difficult. I'm just trying to think of anything, just to pinpoint, conscious of time. Yeah, I think I'll stop there in terms of updates generally.
Yeah, Helen, if you'd like to come in.
Yeah, I can just give you the exact figures for your 25 statement production. So you have 195 active members that are in scope, so they get the ABS RSS, and 317 who are out of scope, giving you a total of 512. So we have produced 143 in scope, which is 73.3%. So some of those that haven't got are the ones where we've got the pay query, and the others are those inter-brigades in transfers in and all that other set of cases. And then for your out of scope, 314 have been sent at 99%. So your total overall is currently standing at 89.2%.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. So we've covered this earlier in the meeting, those two factors, the payroll queries and then the transfers in and so on. But it's good to have a confirmation of the numbers. Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Just in regard to that again, I'm sorry, going back to it, because I think again, useful update, understanding where it is. But I think there's still a number of people who've not got statements who haven't transferred from other services and so on and so forth, and basically have got letters stating the statement hasn't arrived because of there may be for example, because of a divorce payment that's been put in place, so they haven't got the statements coming through. So recognising that, with the update that we're looking potentially December without holding anybody to that date, I'm just conscious that there might be a useful communication, because there's more and more people that are having to utilise the self-assessment tax returns, which need to be in by January, which has an impact in regards to if there's any breaches from their annual allowance, and utilise a scheme pays option. To be able to go through that process, the statements are required. So I suppose it's just being cognizant and being aware that the people that haven't got statements, there's probably a communication to go out to them saying when is probably the likely expectation of it. Otherwise, there is a knock-on effect in regards to their tax returns and the scheme pays element of it. Yeah, I mean, I suppose either. I feel like I've just said a lot without actually asking any questions. It's more of a statement as much as anything. But I think I think for me, I would probably welcome wrapping it up in an update that we can send out to staff to make them understand what the actual position is and what's being done about it. And then, a possible, I don't know if it's possible action where that we can prioritise some areas to ensure that those statements get out. Again, not understanding the details of it, but it's an ask.
So just to clarify, who would prepare this communication? Is it LCC or West Yorkshire?
We
Okay.
definitely haven't got the resource and the time to prepare something. I think our expectation would be that FRAs would deal with their own, because the reality is, if you want West Yorkshire to do it, then that we're not clearing any cases, so we're just delaying and it won't being produced.
I mean, forgive me for coming in. I think for me, I think it probably wouldn't be the best use of the West Yorkshire resources, because we're rather obviously focusing on all the things on there. But whether there is a link in just to ensure that we've got the right data and information to prepare the appropriate communications, and just making sure that we're not saying anything that's not factually accurate, I suppose. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Right then, so for the minutes then, could we record an action for West Yorkshire to provide the data necessary to allow LCC to communicate with those members affected by a lack of a statement?
Well, if you could get me the pay queries resolved first, I'll do it after they've been cleared.
Yeah, so we've acknowledged that, and Tracy's
Yeah.
going to act on that. Thank you. Right, so no further questions on Tony's update. Oh, Mark.
Sorry, back again. Again, there is a theme. It's probably linking in regards to a communication strand. So all the updates in regards to as rightly as you updated about all the Matthews options, and that's where our challenges are in regards to that. I think it's just worth noting from the board, we are getting an awful lot of communications in about concerns about the Matthews options and the delays and so on and so forth. And we're knowing that there's the work in train to be able to resolve it, isn't it? So again, for me, it's probably a consideration of us understanding that work and being able to feed back to the people that we are getting an awful lot of communications, to be able to at least give them information, recognising we're not probably giving them a solution at this moment in time, but I think there is an opportunity for us to try and manage the expectations at the moment, I think. Is that something that we could work together with?
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, item 6, which is the Fire Pension Board plan. So we've had a look at the plan. There were a small handful of open items, some which have been there for a little while. So I'd like to, if possible, just review from 2117 onwards. So that one there is relating to this survey we mentioned earlier. Tony?
Yeah. So with respect to that, I've just had obviously having not been able to update at the beginning of the meeting, had a conversation online with a colleague, and we can't find any evidence that it was or was not completed by Liz, and we're assuming it was. I think if the issue of this is a great need from the board's perspective, that you're concerned that you haven't seen it, then obviously we will go back and get the information, or whether or not, from a board's perspective, we are content that it was sent and there isn't an urgent need or specific need for this to be shared. It's entirely up to yourselves.
Thanks, Tony. I think this has been sitting there for a while now, and it reflects the fact that Liz was dealing with it, and as she's not now here to confirm one way or the other, I think we do need to make a decision that as a survey, it's not likely to be critical. So I'm going to propose that we assume it to be completed. It's well in the past now, and if the rest of the board are happy to consider that item completed.
Just from I think bearing in mind the next survey is due in January, then I think we haven't had any feedback that it hasn't been done, focus that it has, and then we can put the resource in place to get the next one done.
Brilliant, that's agreed then, so we'll consider that item completed. 2118, this is pensions auto enrolment, obviously due February 25. Tony?
Actioned, yep.
Brilliant. And 2119, the year-end top-up grant.
Again, that's been complete.
So just on that, we'll note that that would normally be an update from LCC Finance, and just to note that we don't have a representative from Finance at this meeting, and it's something we should work to resolve for the next board meeting, if possible, please.
I would agree.
Okay, so we've got some additional lines then. 2120, the benefit statements for 2025. We've covered that at length in this meeting already. That will remain open if everyone's in agreement. The next survey, again, is underway. We're dedicating our resources to that, happy with that. And then the year-end grant, not due till April 26, but we're aware of it on the horizon. If everybody's happy with that update on the plan, then we'll consider that complete. Then if we can move on to the training record, just a couple of points to note on that. We've added columns at the end of these records to reflect Councillor McGonigal and Tracy Chamberlain having joined the board. We've made some training opportunities available to Councillor McGonigal. Tracy, I'll provide those to you as well in terms of the pensions regulator online sessions that you can access and work through in your own time. Further than that, we've got as part of the AGM next week, we have some training for pension board members from the Local Government Association. Paul and myself will both be attending that, as well as Tracy. So we'll have an update on that at the next meeting, but otherwise I think we're progressing well. Does anybody have any comments at all? No? Okay. Moving on to the risk register, I think I'd like to tidy this up a bit as well, because I think there are a few legacy issues on there that we can potentially discuss, if not discharge. So if we look at the two categories of management and administration, so management 1, securing compliance with legislation. This is a business as usual risk, I think, that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The residual level of risk is currently relatively low, which is, I believe, a current fair reflection. If everybody's happy with that, we'll leave that as it is. Lack of resource. This has been a bit of an ongoing issue, but there is some work that's been taking place in terms of recruiting Tracy. And Tony, any other updates on that?
Well, I mean, obviously, to be clear, obviously Tracy's got a multiple pension schemes to bring into was part of her role. So obviously Tracy's expertise in terms of other pension schemes and payroll pension administration she's been involved in is helpful. So obviously Tracy will become more involved in terms of being part of those discussions. Clearly we no longer have Liz as an advisor. I wouldn't say I'm a suitable replacement, but I'm here. But I think Liz's knowledge clearly isn't available. I think it's one thing that I would still like to keep on, because I think whether it's a lack of resource or resource challenges, I don't know. But I think for me, that is still a risk and a challenge, and it needs to stay on.
Yeah, I think we'll certainly leave it on, and I think then the control measures that we've got in place are, well, predominantly support from West Yorkshire Pension Fund, and that's pretty much where we are still today. So if we leave the risk rating as it is, then that's a good, to keep that in the forefront of our mind. Management risk 3, knowledge and understanding of the scheme rules. This is again a business as usual risk that we control by the attending the appropriate training, which we've discussed and everybody's aware of the opportunities of training. It's something maybe we can look for broader opportunities if anything presents itself in terms of additional training from the LGA in particular. Online sessions are really helpful. And in the past, we've had some really broad kind of help you to understand the various remedies training. That would be, yeah, great. So if anybody comes across anything we can access and bring this to the board, that would be much appreciated. Conflicts of interest, risk 4 in the management section. Obviously, again, business as usual. We'll are asked to declare conflicts of interest and potential conflicts. There's none been identified so far. We're all, well, a number of us are members of the scheme, but this isn't considered a conflict of interest, so we're happy to leave that as it is, as a low risk. Immediate detriment. So is this still a current issue in terms of the guidance is now with us, the national framework is in place? Do we still need to consider this risk? And if so, is the rating appropriate?
So in terms of where we are, so the cases were addressed prior to the age discrimination remedy as part of the Sergeant. They have been reviewed and work is in progress to move these to a final position. For retirements post-23, a business as usual process has been introduced for retirements where remedy is required. So this will remain in place until all cases have been resolved at retirement. So I guess for me it sounds like it's still there, but is coming to an end, so to speak. So yeah.
Thanks, Tony. It's good to have that discussion. Mark, have you got a point to raise?
No, just echoing supporting Tony there. I think I don't think for me we're not comfortable enough to remove it as a risk, but recognising probably the control and contingencies of getting those processes embedded can probably reduce the residual risk until pretty much everybody's gone through that process, to be honest with you. So perhaps it's more to do with about just recognising and updating the controls and contingencies, and then that will probably give us more justification just to reduce the residual risk, because it's just recognising there has been progress on that.
So if I just propose a rewording for the controls and contingencies then. So from LGA guidance being sought, we could say LGA guidance has been provided. The national framework has been developed, and then the additional resource allocated to support the process. Resource is sufficient to support the process. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah.
If we accept that rewording of the control measures, if we downgrade the risk then, so probability, impact and total, so that if we say the probability is reduced to 1, so the risk will be reduced to an overall rating of 3. I hope you don't mind going through the fine detail of the risk register. I think we do gloss over it a bit sometimes, so I think it's worth having this conversation, make it do what it's supposed to do. Okay, if we move on to the administration risks then. Member data incomplete or inaccurate, that's going to be a business as usual risk to consider. Tony, have you got any things to...
Well, I mean, and Tracy may want to come into this as well. I mean, my understanding is that, you know, there's close working between pensions team and project team and WYPF in terms of that work and addressing them as they arrive. So in terms of, you know, that work is ongoing, I guess, in terms of the quality assurance of that information. So I think it probably needs to be on there. I don't know, Tracy, if you want to come in.
Yeah, so we have, I have a weekly meeting with Nicola and the team that are working on the Legacy and Matthews cases. We're taking more of the business as usual case back into the pensions administration team. Literally yesterday I set up a new email box so that we can separate that work off, so we can keep it in areas. Nicola and Kelly are doing an amazing job, and Dylan as well, on the sergeant work and the Matthews work. And then I've appointed one member of my team to work with Dylan, Nicola and Kelly to take over, so that we can all support each other. So I think that the future's looking positive, definitely.
Brilliant, thanks Tracy. That is a positive update. So the risk will remain on the register, clearly. Whether anybody feels the need to adjust that residual risk, I think based on the conversations, I think we probably may as well leave it as it stands, because the potential impact is quite significant, unless anybody disagrees.
No, it was just a point actually that Nicola's pointed out to me is I think the wording is closely liaising with the pension provider. Obviously, payroll and pension processing is now in-house. I think that just needs to be that it's not a provider, it's our service. So just for amendment, not so much the point you were making. Apologies.
Yeah, no, oh, thank you. I have a similar view on there, but I think it's just probably a broader point. I think it needs to acknowledge the amount of work and the resources, and with Tracy coming here there's an awful lot going on to trying to resolve these issues, and I think it is worth noting, that is worth keep raising up at the board. Notwithstanding that, I think it's not unhelpful to have it on the risk register and to have it at the risk rating, because I think it does recognise actually how much work is required to ensure that we've got member data that's accurate and complete. So I think if we either reduce the residual risk or removed it, I think that would probably not paint the picture of how much actually work the team are having to do to get to that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So quite happy to retain that as risk and retain it at the level of risk that we've discussed. So just if we could make that adjustment from close liaison with payroll provider to reflect the more accurate arrangement that we don't have a separate payroll provider now. Brilliant. System failures, again, very much a business as usual risk. So the control measures around that are maintenance of hardware and software, regular backup or data and systems, and testing of information technology recovery plans. I believe that these are all current and relevant and carried out on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to suggest we leave the risk as it is, as a relatively low risk there. Compliance with GDPR. Again, this will always be a risk for us potentially. The control measures being the DPO in place, that's the LCC DPO, and then advice from West Yorkshire Pension Fund. I think that's all we're ever going to have really, and as the rating there reflects, it's in hand, and we're quite happy with that level of risk. Stop me if you've got any comments to make. Okay. So A4, lack of skilled resources, LCC and West Yorkshire Pension Fund. Now I think the update from West Yorkshire Pension Fund didn't really go any way to making us feel any more comfortable about the resources in West Yorkshire Pension Fund. No, not necessarily through their own faults, just down to difficulty recruiting in the current employment market potentially, but it's something we still have to consider. Within LCC, positive movement, but Tony?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whether it's skilled resource is the right terminology and more around knowledge, I think for me it remains an issue. You know, Tracy's understanding of pensions is helpful, but clearly Tracy isn't the solution in itself. In that, as I'm quite, Tracy's got a lot of amount of pension schemes to manage, but obviously her and the team working closely with Nicola and Kelly is obviously a great advantage to where we were 12 months ago. So it's going in the right direction, but I still think it's a risk and needs to remain on. Clearly, there is a meeting with myself and Chief Fire Officer Mark and Section 151 officer in terms of just a further sort of discussion around the current position, where clearly we accept that members of the scheme are frustrated in terms of particularly those that are retiring or have retired, and we accept that. So I think, you know, I think the thing is we're going in the right direction, but for me it should stay on as it is, and you know, hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months we can see an improving position, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, just from my view, I fully agree with Tony's assessment there. I think for me, it's just probably worth just updating the contingency section. Sorry, excuse me. Controls and contingencies, because I think it is worth reflecting the amount of work that LCC have put into bringing in people to ensure that they've got that pension work, and clearly we're not going to put you down as Tracy as a specific person, but I think at the moment we're still in, we're looking at, for example, recruit dedicated person, support within LCC being progressed. Well, actually there's a lot of work that's moved on from there, hasn't there? So I think it is right referencing that in the controls and contingencies. But again, linking back to, I think there's value in us still keeping it with the residual risk, because until we go through probably this next 6 month period, and then we get more the confidence that actually it is translating into resolving those issues.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. It is a really positive move that we have improved our position from 12 months ago, but absolutely agree that it's still a current issue, one to remain on the risk register, and the level of risk is to remain as it is. And then the final one, the pensions dashboard. We've had some discussion about this today. Work's taking place and underway. So the last update was that testing, the matching criteria, was relatively successful. The deadline's approaching. The codes have been shared. The updates that we've had so far have been relatively positive. Do we consider the probability of issues arising to still be rated at 2?
I mean, just from the updates we've had and the review there, I think the probability probably could be reduced. Yeah, and that would probably reflect the direction of travel that's been had in this work, is my view.
Absolutely. So leaving it on the register will give us the opportunity to review it post-implementation. But if at this point, if we could downgrade the probability to 1 to give us a residual risk of 3, please. And that concludes the pension board plan. So if we can carry on to item 7 on the agenda. This is an update from Tony on the fire pension schemes bulletins.
Yeah, so in terms of since the last meeting, we've had 3 bulletins. Bulletin 93, which came out in May, which was around the Government Actuaries Department gathering data on the Matthews second option elections to inform the evaluation process and to inform future contribution rates. So obviously Lincolnshire has been contributing to that. The second one, Bulletin 94, was an update on the Matthews 2 calculator, supporting relevant parts of the changes proposed under the amendments to the Firefighters Pension Scheme. Retained firefighters consultation on that remains in development, and that the Government Actuaries Department will undertake pre-release trials once the consultation response is published, and will be tested by a number of fire authorities prior to a general release to all. The final one was just Bulletin 95, which came out in July. this year, which is work is continuing on contingent decisions for opted out members, as the current legislation does not fully deliver the intended remedy for a small cohort. A working group led by MHCLG is being established to look at a solution through the existing McLeod compensation. There were some updates to amendments to schemes around continuous service and updates on ill health guidance, and of course, who could forget the Firefighters Pension Conference on the 17th and 18th of September.
Brilliant, thank you, Tony. Are there any questions for Tony on that update? No, good. Right, let's move on to item 8, Fire Pension Officers Group update from Tony, please.
Yeah, so there's sort of two groups, one update. The North East Region 5 Pension Officers Group took place yesterday. So I don't have anything through the wires or any update on that, so that will be provided afterwards. The other one really was just around the West Yorkshire and Pension Fund and Fire Client meeting, which obviously, again, Helen's referred to some of this around West Yorkshire making some structural and resource changes to enable them to sort of try and meet the demands of their clients. The ongoing issues around the ABS and RSS production, and the contribution refunds, and the estimates will only be available for expected retirements within the next 12 months, so a maximum of 2. It was acknowledged that processing the Matthews cases was not as swift as anyone would like. The team, again, picking up on what Helen was saying, the team are currently working chronologically across all clients, issues around paperwork, etc., and concerns around obviously the delays, etc. But I think pretty much that was where we are, and I think it reiterates what we've heard just to a large extent this morning. That's it. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks, Tony, especially for the update on Nerf POG, as Liz would have called it. Okay, as we've already covered item 9 earlier in the meeting, all that remains then is to discuss the date for the next meeting, which is 4th of December 2025. And with that, that's the end of the meeting. Thanks to everybody for joining us in person and online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.